Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Shrinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam Hridiyantasto hi abhadrani vidhunoti sruhit satam Nashta prayeshva bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shlokir Bhakti Bhavati Naishtikir. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So we'll begin with reciting this verse. 4.8.72. Triratrante kapitha badrashanaha atmavritti anusarena masam ninye archanam harim. Triratrante kapitha badrashanaha Atmavritti anusarena masam ninye archayan harim. Triratrante kapitta badarashanaha Atmavritti anusarena masam ninye archayan harim. Is there anyone who would like to recite this beautiful verse?
Hare Krishna Mataji, can I try?
Please, Mataji.
Triratrante kopitva badarashanaha atmavritti anusharena masam ninne archayan harim. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Anybody else?
Mataji, I am trying.
Please, Prabhu.
Triratrante kapitha badarashanaha atmavritta anusharena masam ninne archayan hari. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Okay. So the word-to-word synonyms, translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. 3. Ratra ante, at the end of night. 3. Ratra ante, at the end of night. Kapitha, badara, fruits and berries. Ashanaha, eating. Atmavritti, just to preserve the body. Anusarena, as it was necessary, minimum. Masam, 1 month. Ninye, passed away. Archayan, worshipping. Harim, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation. For the first month, Dhruva Maharaj ate only fruits and berries on every 3rd day, only to keep his body and soul together. And in this way, he progressed in his worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Is there any volunteer who would like to read the purport? Okay. So
Can I
I'll
read,
read it.
Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, please.
Kopita is a flower which is known in Indian vernacular as kayata. We do not find any English equivalent for the name of the flower, but its fruit is generally not accepted by human beings. It's eaten by monkeys in the forest. Dhruva Maharaja, however, accepted such fruits not for luxurious feasting, but just to keep his body and soul together. The body needs food But a devotee should not accept foodstuff to satisfy the tongue in sense gratification. It is recommended in Bhagavad Gita that one should accept as much food as necessary to keep the body fit, but one should not eat for luxury. Dhruva Maharaja is an acharya, and by undergoing severe austerities and penances, he teaches us how one should execute devotional service. We must carefully know the process of Dhruva Maharaja's service. How severely he passed his days will be shown in later verses. We should always remember that to become a bona fide devotee of the Lord is not an easy task. But in this age, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, it has been made very easy. But if we do not follow even the liberal instruction of Lord Chaitanya, how can we expect to discharge our regular duties in devotional service? It's not possible in this age to follow Dhruva Maharaj in his austerity. But the principles must be followed. We should not disregard the regulative principles given by our spiritual master, for they make it easier for the conditioned soul. As far as our ISKCON movement is concerned, we simply ask that one observe the 4 prohibitive rules, chant 16 rounds, and instead of indulging in luxurious eating for the tongue, simply accept prasada offered to the Lord. This does not mean that with our fasting, the Lord should also fast. The Lord should be given foodstuff, which is as nice as possible. But we should not make it a point to satisfy our own tongues. As far as possible, we should accept simple foodstuff just to keep the body and soul together to execute devotional service. Do you want to read the next one?
Yes.
Mataji, I am reading the next verse.
Yes, Prabhu.
It is our duty to remember always that in comparison to Dhruva Maharaj, we are insignificant. We cannot do anything like what Dhruva Maharaj did for self-realization because we are absolutely incompetent to execute such service. But by Lord Chaitanya's mercy, we have been given all concessions possible for this age. So at least we should always remember that neglect of our prescribed duties in devotional service will not make us successful in the mission we have undertaken. It is our duty to follow in the footsteps of Dhruva Maharaj, for he was determined. We should also be determined to finish our duties in executing devotional service in this life. We should not wait for another life to finish our job.
Beautiful. What a wonderful verse and purport it is. So before we even begin understanding, let's meditate on our spiritual master's lotus feet, so that Srila Prabhupada has very clearly explained everything in the purport, and it's our duty now to be able to understand and get the meaning of what Srila Prabhupada is wanting us to apply it. So let's take a few minutes to just meditate by prayers to the lotus feet of our spiritual masters and Srila Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bir Krishna Das Goswami Niti Namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Devi Nisheshavadi Paschatya Deshitarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai. So as we begin with understanding the purport of Srila Prabhupada has mentioned a lot of details in this verse, in this purport. So let's first go to Bhagavad Gita, where verse number 72 to 77 is about Dhruva Maharaj performing austerities. And if we go to verse number 71, listening to the instructions of his spiritual master, Narada Muni, he arrives at, Dhruv Maharaj arrives at Madhuvan. He takes his bath in the river Yamuna, and he observes fasting in the night with great care and attention. And as advised by Narada Muni, he engages himself in the worshipping of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So to be able to start worshipping, we have to have some quality in renunciation. And Srila Prabhupada mentions here in Bhagavad Gita, in 6.2, verse number 6.2, Yam sannyasam iti prahur yogam tam vidhi pandava nahi asanyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschena. The translation says, what is called renunciation, you should know to be the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme. O son of Pandu, for one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. So if we actually understand Dhruva Maharaj living such opulent life, renounces to find the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So let's begin understanding that first of all, no one can perform austerities in this age of Kali, like what Dhruv Maharaj is performing. And therefore this purport, clearly all the purports have been specifically focusing on this point that Dhruv Maharaj is not an ordinary soul. Dhruv Maharaj's exalted position is what we come to know from reading purports. And we understand that Srila Prabhupada mentions Dhruv Maharaj as an Acharya here. And who is an Acharya? An Acharya is a person, is an individual, great soul who teaches others by practice, by what he himself practices, like our dear Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. So how did Dhruv Maharaj, how Dhruv Maharaj is called an Acharya here? Dhruv Maharaj is called an Acharya here is because he underwent severe austerities and penances, and he teaches us how one should execute devotional service. Now, the question that may come to our minds right now would be, do I have to perform such austerities and penances that Dhruv Maharaj is doing? But we have to come back to this age, and we have to understand that these were the activities in the Satyayug. But because we are in Kali Yuga, Srila Prabhupada also mentions later in the word that we are given that concession. We are given the concession of being by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is very, very liberal. So what we have to do here, in this verse, we understand that this is the easiest process to go back to Godhead. Now, what is the easiest process to go back to Godhead? Does it resonate with our life where we have to actually perform activities in terms of renunciation, austerities, penances, going to the Himalayas, or going to Madhuvan and doing the same practices as Dhruv Maharaj did? No. For us, we should remember that to become a bona fide devotee of the Lord, it's not an easy task. But the mercy of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is already there, and it has been made very, very easy for all of us. Because we are born in the very, very ripe age of Kali Yuga, right? This is a very, very good time. But Srila Prabhupada also mentions that, but if we do not follow even the liberal instructions of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how can we expect to discharge our regular duties in devotional service? So with this, we understand that Dhruv Maharaj, directly or indirectly, has taught us how to perform devotional service. Now, even if Dhruv Maharaj, what I mean by directly or indirectly is, Dhruv Maharaj's aim and goal was definitely material desire. But because of his determination, his above all the material desires, he has this great extreme necessity that he feels. He wants to see the Lord. So seeing the Lord, is it called material desire? No, this is not material desire. Seeing the Lord is a desire, very, very spiritual in the sense. So therefore, it's directly or indirectly, he's performing these devotional service. So on top of everything, he wants to see the Lord, even though he's determined that when once he sees the Lord, he'll ask for a kingdom greater than greater than Brahma's, let's say. So now we come to this next question. Can we not perform devotional service without austerities? Is there anyone who would like to say without austerities, or what is the need for austerities in performing devotional service? Why are austerities needed at first place? Why do we need to be austere, and what is the reason of performing austerities and penances? Any idea?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. Mataji, at least you have to follow the austerity, because so it will bring us to more of goodness. Where Srila Rupa Goswami mentioned in Nectar of Instruction, so all these sadhanas, it will bring us to mode of goodness. So there we can start our bhakti easily. So it's my opinion, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Very, very nice. So yes, austerities purify our existence. Austerities purify our existence. So definitely austerities are needed to be able to connect with Krishna. We definitely have to purify our existence. So we understand one part, why austerities, how Dhruv Maharaj is an acharya, and what sort of renunciation Dhruv Maharaj is facing or performing or practicing, and what is the renunciation we need to perform. So we'll come back to this paragraph again, but the first point was Dhruv Maharaj's performance, or Dhruv Maharaj's activities are definitely exalted. He's an acharya, and austerities are very important, and austerities purify our existence. Let's come to the second point of discussion here, where we see that Dhruv Maharaj ate only fruits and berries every third day. Why? The answer was already there in the translation, and Srila Prabhupada says only to keep his body and soul together. Now, if we come back to this, the same situation in in Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada, Krishna mentions again that how should we eat? What is the regulation that we should follow? So what should be our eating in order to perform devotional service? How should be our sleeping in order to perform devotional service? So Srila Prabhupada mentions the same statement in in Bhagavad Gita, where 616, in 616, Srila Prabhupada says, there's no possibility of one becoming a devotee or becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. Now, what are these activities? If we eat too much, if we sleep too much, do we have time to perform devotional service? This reminds of a very, very nice understanding of how the 6 Goswamis were not to, when we read their life, when we read their biographies, when we read their life history, we understand that how in 6 days they would have one glass of buttermilk. Definitely they have this exalted position, and then if we consider it, the question that comes to our mind is, were they never hungry? No, it's not about hunger. It's about the absorption. So the absorption, the more we are absorbed, like in Ekadashi, it is recommended that we abstain from grains. Of course, it has a different connotation. And fasting. Now, fasting definitely has really great benefits. But at the same time, fasting helps us to disconnect from the activity that we are regularly doing it. So our regular activity is eating, sleeping, defending, mating. And when we actually come to that level of austerity, we want to renounce not the activities, but renounce the attitude that we have towards sense gratification. So therefore, these fasting special, like yesterday was Narsimha Chaturdashi, and we fasted. Some of the devotees fasted for like till dusk. What was the reason for that fasting? Was it to fast because you have got nothing else to do? Was it like, but when we see in the temple, when we see in various devotion houses, they were preparing feasts for their deities. They were preparing feasts. There was a huge feast in the temple for the pleasure of the Lord. But the devotees were fasting. Now, this indicates that how important it is to follow the renunciation in terms of detaching yourself to sense gratification. It's very easy for anybody of us to just let's keep like really nice plates of prasadam in front of us, and it's very, very difficult for us to not satisfy our tongue, because tongue is the most voracious. That's why we sing Sharira Avidya Jal, that prayers before we eat. So here Srila Prabhupada is warning us. But before that, is Srila Prabhupada telling us not to eat? Does Srila Prabhupada say that, okay, you should not eat prasadam, or you should not eat too much prasadam? Here, as far as our ISKCON movement is concerned, we simply ask that one observe the 4 prohibitive rules, chant 16 rounds, and instead of indulging in luxurious eating for the tongue, simply accept prasad offered to the Lord. Now, this does not mean that with our fasting, the Lord should also fast. But we should not make it a point to satisfy our own tongue. Now, this gives us a very nice, straightforward response to how do we take prasad. Now, a very nice understanding that comes here is we don't eat prasad. We don't eat prasad. We honor prasad. So there's a difference between eating and honoring prasadam. Is there anyone who would like to tell their realization on eating and honoring prasadam? Anyone who would like to differentiate between eating prasadam and honoring prasadam?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
My 2 points. This is not my realization, but this is just what I think. When we're eating, we should be, silently contemplating on the mercy of the Lord, that He has given us this prasadam to purify us and to make us more God conscious.
Yes. So that is honoring prasadam, that's where we honor the flowers that are given to us, the garlands that are given to us by the lordships as prasad. Prasad. Prasad means something, the remnants of the food, the remnants of the paraphernalia, remnants of anything that the Lord, and so it's not different from the Lord. So prasad means Prabhu, Sakshat Darshan. Prabhu's darshan is there in our prasadam. And definitely we should eat and eat and eat a lot of prasadam, but we should not take it our whole life consciousness into this. Honoring prasadam. So we are so used to saying eating prasadam because our consciousness is mostly based on eating. So when we eat prasadam, we talk about mundane matters. And what do we do when we honor prasadam? We take it as the mercy of Krishna, and we see that how, sometimes when we get a garland of Radha Giridhari or bangles of Sri Radhe, then what happens to us? We just go like, wow, I feel so blessed today. So that with that feeling, we should be honoring prasadam. Like, I'm so blessed that I got really Lord's remnants. So Srila Prabhupada here is warning us not to be just prasadam conscious. So Srila Prabhupada is telling us that in our subtle endeavor to become Krishna conscious, prasadam is very, very, very important in the beginning. But as we speed up, as we take up, yes, feasting is very important. Honoring prasadam is very important. Srila Prabhupada says, Gurudev says that in there, he sometimes tells us how in their early days, Srila Prabhupada used to feed every disciple, everyone in fact, to the neck. So why? Because prasadam purifies our existence. It has such beautiful responses that we automatically start getting into that mode of goodness. We automatically start realizing, because that's why prasadam distribution is like one of the very important activities in ISKCON. Why? Because with prasadam, the consciousness gradually and quickly changes. So prasadam plays definitely a very, very important role in purifying our consciousness. So, but yes, as we pick up to Krishna consciousness, we should not be too prasadam conscious. So our channel should change, that instead of satisfying our own tongue, we are eating for the pleasure of the Lord in order to keep our body and soul together. Why to keep the body and soul together? The purpose is to execute devotional service. So I also remember here, I just took this while reading, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, actually in this Antalila, he's telling this to Raghunath Dasa Goswami, Gramya katha na sunibe, grama varta na kahibe, bhala na khaibe, ara bhala na paribe. So do not talk like people in general or hear what they say. You should not eat very palatable food, nor should you dress very nicely. Now, this is a sign for us to Krishna. How am I going to live like this? I mean, we are part of ISKCON, and eating, dressing for the pleasure of the Lord is like one of the really, really fun activities. I mean, who here would come back from the temple program and say, okay, I will not have prasadam, or I'll just honor a little bit prasadam. We eat to the full. We are so happy with the prasadam, and we're so happy with Lord dressed so beautifully, and we dressed so beautifully. So that is the answer given here is in the next verse, where Krishna is, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling us, do not expect honor, but offer all respect to others. Always chant the holy name of Lord Krishna, and within your mind, render service to Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. So here, the section here says, talk concerning with such family life is called Gramya Katha. So a person in the renounced order never indulges in hearing or talking about such subjects. He should not eat palatable dishes, since that is unfit for a person in the renounced order. He should show all respect to others, but should not expect respect for himself. In this way, one should chant the holy name of the Lord and think of how to serve Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. Now, we may take it as, okay, this is for the renunciates. We are not renunciates. And we should definitely, then when we go back to this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, then we have to understand that, okay, then this is not for me. This is only for the sannyasis who have to live their life in strict order. But no, Srila Prabhupada has given this system of varnashram, where he's telling that even a grahastha can be renunciate. He can be a sannyasi. How can he be a sannyasi? Having the consciousness to execute devotional service 24 hours. When we see in Shikshashtakam, Trinadapi Shunichena Taroreva Sahishnuna Amanina Manidena Kirtaniya Sadahari. So how to change the consciousness so that we are constantly able to concentrate on the holy names. Holy names, because right now this is the regulation. This is the only method. This is the easiest method where we can go back to Godhead. So why? Because if we keep our consciousness busy in not being humble and in full ego, or in full absorption to material activities, there'll be very, very, very little, like very, very, very little time to concentrate on the holy names of the Lord. And it will be very little that we would execute devotional service. So coming from there, we see that how Srila Prabhupada has mentioned in the last line of this verse, saying we should also be determined to finish our duties in executing devotional service in this life. So we should not wait for another life to finish our job. We may say, in Bhagavad Gita guarantees us very nicely, Bhagavad Gita guarantees that any favor will save us from the most danger, or from the most fearful danger. And what is that danger? To be born in the lower species of life. But at the same time, we feel ourselves assured that, yes, I'll be born as a human being because I'm doing a little bit of devotional service, and Krishna guarantees that in Bhagavad Gita. But Srila Prabhupada tells us, why? In such an easy situation here, even if we go to heaven after this, the time calculations of while we come back, there'll be more Kali Yuga. The Kali Yuga will take its real face. How sure are we that we will make the right choices, even if Krishna facilitates us? And the problem that comes off is our free will. So we quickly can discuss how how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very liberal in teaching us the easiest path. So only by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we have got the concessions. And what are the concessions? The concession is there for us in Shikshashtakam, verse number 2. What was that verse number 2? Nam nam akari bahuda, nija sarva shaktis, trar pita niyamate, smarane na kalaha. There is nothing that we need to be worried about. Oh, I should not chant now. But the sorry situation that we are in is that we don't have any taste for that. So this is so liberal. Chanting the holy names is so liberal. That's why we, all of us being fallen then Jagai and Madhai, still have the liberty, still have the concession through Sri Srila Prabhupada, through our spiritual masters, through Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, that we are able to, that we have the chance to perform devotional service. So understanding this, we should make this mission a successful mission for ourselves. We have to make sure that we follow the footsteps of Dhruva Maharaj by determination, and be very determined that we finish it in this life and we are done. Because in between birth and death, this is said by so many devotees, that between birth and death there is the sea, that is choice. And even if Krishna facilitates us so beautifully in our next life, like Krishna has guaranteed, very nicely Krishna has guaranteed that he will be born, but the devotee, like Arjuna asks, what happens to the devotee who could not finish his, who could not reach his perfection by executing devotional service? So to be 100%, we have to be 100% devoted. But what is the guarantee that in the next life we will make, or we will take the right choice? We'll make the right choice. What is the guarantee in this? There's no guarantee. Today we have, we are surrounded by a beautiful association of devotees. We have all facilities that Krishna and Srila Prabhupada, our Guru Maharajas, have made available for all of us. Even though the guarantee is there for next life too, but what is the guarantee that I will make the right choice? There's no guarantee. So therefore, we should also be determined to finish our duties in executing devotional service in this life. We should not wait for another life to finish our job. With this, I understood one point, that bhakti requires 100% of our heart. 100% of our heart. If we have 5 minutes, I'd like to read a very nice prayer from the Beggar Series 1, where His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj, this is meditation 39. I'll quickly try and read. It may take 5 minutes maximum, I guess. So let's all meditate with Bhakti, His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. Let's meditate, because it's really, it facilitates our heart to bring that mood of how I should not be using my free will according to my whims and fancies. Meditation says, I have no desire. My dear Lord Shama, today I, the beggar, even though I have no right, am pleading for a moment for your attention. Please arrange that every word that comes out from my mouth, directly or indirectly, glorifies you. I'm one of those who has misused his free will. I've asked you to take my body, mind, intelligence, and will, so that there will remain no facility for me to hide or run away from your love. Dear God, please forgive me and accept me back home. I have been a wandering, envious fool. My dear Lord Shama, please arrange that everything that I see reminds me of your most beautiful forms. As I've given you my body, mind, and intelligence, and have requested that you take all my so-called free will away from me. Even though I'm unqualified, I plead to you to forgive me and to accept me back home. I've been a wandering, envious fool. My dear Lord Shama, please arrange that everything I hear will cause me to remember your loving pastimes. I am the one who has misused his free will and has fallen into this material world, becoming a slave of my mind, body, and intelligence. I have given back my free will to you, and now I wait for your forgiveness to accept me back as a resident of the spiritual world. My dear Lord Shama, please arrange that everything I eat reminds me of your eternal compassion and sweetness. I'll repeat that. Please arrange that everything I eat reminds me of your eternal compassion and sweetness. My body, mind, intelligence, and will have all been placed before you. Please bring me back to you, for I no longer have any desire to hide and run from you. I am a stubborn, wandering, envious fool. My dear Lord Sham, please arrange that all of my thoughts find their home at the lotus feet of the divine couple and my spiritual master. Any other reflections or meditations are simply a waste of time, as I have no mind, intelligence, or will, for they are yours. Surely, there's no difficulty in your using what is yours. Please let me remain aside, so you can do with my little assistance as you desire. Please forgive me and accept me back home. I'm a wandering, envious fool who is in desperate need of your causeless mercy. My dear Lord Sham, please arrange so that all of my work glorifies you and your divine consort. I've been for many lifetimes hiding, doing all kinds of useless things, running away from your full protection and love. Now that your servants have captured me, please do not let me lose. Deny me any access to my free will. After all, in the past, I have been a wandering, envious fool. And if you allow me the slightest bit of freedom, will I not once again abuse it? Please forgive me and drag me back home. My dear Lord Sham, please arrange that I give up all false renunciation, surrendering everything to you. Sometimes I have tried to bribe you by false renunciation. What a joke. You do not need anything from me, even though I had renounced in the past. It was all in the surface. Now that I've declined my free will, I've asked you to force me to do all that will please you. Can you still deny me since I no longer attempt to deny you? I have nothing else to renounce. I wait for your forgiveness to accept me back home. I'm so tired of being such a wandering, envious fool. My dear Lord Sham, please arrange that every breath I take reminds me that my whole existence is simply for your pleasure. If I'm not able to please you, there's no meaning of life itself. You have said that all things come from you, remembrance as well as forgetfulness. I beg never to forget you. Since I've desperately thrown myself at your feet, I desire no freedom. I'm your prisoner. Will you never allow me to forget you? Can you now fully forgive me for my numerous offenses? Drag me back home. Otherwise, I'll continue to be a wandering, envious fool. My dear Lord Sham, you have allowed me to write these submissions to you, although you know I do not really mean them fully. So just as you have allowed me to come this far, I beg you also to allow me to go so far as to mean them all. After all, I have petitioned to be your slave. Even though I am unworthy, it's up to you to do with your property as you desire. If you choose to reject me at this time, if it is your pleasure, then I shall still be the most fortunate to be able to be one who has done something to give the Lord joy. Let me go on for eternity, if it is your desire, as a wandering fool. As always, I shall continue to beg. But please, dear Lord, arrange to remove once and for all traces of enviousness. I'm still that beggar who has no desire to claim or employ his free will. Now do with me as you like, as long as it gives pleasure to you. Jai. So wonderful prayers on our using of free will. That's where our surrender comes. So beautiful. With this, I would like to end my understanding on this. If there's anyone who would like to, I don't know if we have time, but if there's anyone who would like to contribute their realizations or anything that I have missed out on, or anything that I did not, I said wrongly, so please forgive me, and we can open this for everybody else. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I have a question. How does chanting mold our lives, our spiritual lives?
Okay.
How does it help?
That's a very beautiful question, Prabhu. I'll also question the same, and I'll ask you a question. How does prasadam mold our lives?
By eating prasadam, the remnants, we get the mercy of the Lord.
Yes. So like when we discussed about prasadam, we did mention that it's honoring prasadam. So like prasadam, like eating prasadam, chanting is also based on connection. So Gurudev says that we might not be really like without sankalpa, without any motive, it's very difficult to be doing anything. Like in Dhruv Maharaj's life, we understand that with Dhruv Maharaj, without any motive, it would have been very difficult for him. Now his motive is, it all began from insult and then the material desires, and then it will change in the coming verses. But the fact here is, do we ever forget to do our regulative duties, for example? No, we don't. But at the same time, as we are connected to the duties, we are to be connected to chanting. Some days are going to be very, very ecstatic for us when we are chanting really nicely, which really very rarely happens. But some days will be like, we're just doing it for the sake of chanting. But Srila Prabhupada says, why are we mentally speculating a lot? And recently, I mean, this question has always been a big time question for all of us. Like, until and unless we connect with somebody, how are we able to talk to someone? We have, chanting is begging. Chanting is when we're begging and we are asking Srimati Radharani, we're asking the pleasure-giving potency, please engage me in the loving devotional service of the Lord. So that's the meaning of chanting. We are asking the Lord that you be given that opportunity so that you are engaged in the loving devotional service. So as I just a few minutes ago, I said that bhakti takes 100% of our, bhakti requires 100% of our heart. Like when we do things for our kids, we do it with 100% heart. You know, my child should like it, this, that. Somebody who we love, we do all the activities with 100% heart in it. We don't use our mind so much. I think I don't need to do it. I think so. We don't want to bring any selfishness in us. We don't want to bring any confusions in our service when we are doing anything for our loved ones. But at the same time, chanting is that activity where 100% connection is required. Immediately, we can't get that 100% connection. But yeah, Srila Prabhupada is teaching us how to connect. And in this process of how to connect this, there's so many bhakti procedures that we have to follow to get that bhakti. So the aim, the process is bhakti, and the process is chanting, and the goal is also chanting. So the day we reach 100% of our heart in chanting, definitely we have reached perfection, because that's the perfection which we are really looking for. It's not like once we reach perfection, we stop chanting. No, the chanting becomes double, triple, and it's like crying for mercy, crying for mercy. And therefore, in Bhakti literatures, we understand that Bhakti Shastras, we understand, we get this point that how Vipralamba Bhav is the topmost bhav. So right now in this stage, the first thing that we have to do is build a connection. We have, until unless we have built a connection with our spiritual master, we can't have any connection with anybody. So the best connection that we can make with our spiritual master is by serving the mission of Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada's desire is that we should all be reading his books to understand the philosophy. The more we read, the better we get the taste in chanting. We may be committing a lot of offenses, but at the same time, Srila Prabhupada is just telling, keep chanting, keep chanting, keep going. One day we will get perfection.
Thank you.
Prabhu, did I cover your question?
Thanks very much.
Is there anyone who would like to answer this as well?
Krishna, dear devotees, any more reflection, queries? We still got a few minutes. Doesn't seem to be so, Mataji. I will end here. Thank you very much, Mataji, for coming short notice for such a wonderful class. I praise Radha Padma Mataji ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhaktan Gautam Haribo, Pancha Kalpataru Vaisya, Pasni Vaisya, Dinam Pavni Bhyo Vishnavi Bhyo Namo ki jai.
Jai. Have a lovely rest of the day. Hare Krishna.